Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Of course, as always, I'm your host, Charles Hamaker, here with you. We are here once again in the home studio for the day. We are working on getting a new director, as our old friend Curtis is on to bigger and better things. He's working on a different career here. So we're in the home studio. We're working with what we got. The show must go on. Things continue. The Seahawks are at the end of their training camp, and preseason cuts are already underway. So there's going to be a lot of news with that in the coming weeks and leading into week one. The Mariners are the hottest team in baseball, knock on wood, despite what the Bleacher Report standings will tell you. The Storm have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. The Sounders, they didn't lose in their last match, so that's something, but we'll talk about that. The Rain did lose, and we'll get through all that. So we'll start off, of course, with our Seahawks here, who went to Lambeau Field, went to play the Green Bay Packers on the road in this game. Week 3 of the preseason, the finale of the preseason for 2023. A big opportunity for a lot of the players who don't necessarily have their spot carved out, don't necessarily know if they're going to be on the roster, for them to go out and showcase that. At quarterback, though, it was mainly Drew Lock getting the snaps. All but 10 of the 35 pass attempts made by a quarterback on the Seahawks side were Drew Lock. Holton Ahlers got the last drive of the game for the Seahawks. And that was about it. They wanted to get Drew Lock more reps and more experience, and he was able to do that in this game. But the Seahawks would lose this one 15-19. Holton on that last drive of the game threw an interception. The Seahawks were actually in the red zone driving, trying to go ahead and win the game there. They were unable to do so, and the Seahawks would lose a preseason game. Who really cares? Holton Ahlers not able to get that comeback game-winning drive. Talking about offensive and defensive players of the game, I went with Drew Lock. 16 completions on 25 pass attempts, 150 yards in total, 1 touchdown through the air, a 93.8 quarterback rating. So, not the worst thing in the world. He didn't get sacked. He didn't throw an interception. He was able to clean up the turnovers, which is a big thing for Drew Lock. And, this was big for him. It was very interesting earlier in the offseason that Geno Smith said that he kind of felt bad for Drew Lock because and it was interesting, this quote, because Geno Smith is very confident in Drew Lock and thinks he can start at with other teams, but instead Drew Lock is going to have to sit here and be the backup to Geno Smith. So it's interesting in that regard to hear Geno say that. But you want to keep your backup ready. I respect that. So I believe the Seahawks are going to plan to look at a third quarterback through these next few weeks. It might be Ahlers, it might not be. So we'll be interested to see how that plays out. The guy will likely be on the practice squad as opposed to the actual depth chart. So, excuse me. Yeah, I apologize. This episode might be shorter than normal. You might notice the bags under my eyes. It's been a long weekend, and we're pushing through it. So, yeah, it could have gone with Aesop Winston Jr. had 3 receptions, 74 yards. Jake Bobo had a decent game here. We'll talk about him in a minute. But I went with Drew Lock on offense. On defense, I don't even have a photo of him in his game action. We went with the safety / defensive back because he's kind of played all over. Jarek Reed, the second late round guy that the Seahawks selected this year. 6 total tackles, 5 solo, 2 tackles for loss. He was flying around in this game, making an impact, and it's really going to be a tough spot for him to make the roster, considering how stacked the secondary is for the Seahawks. Especially, and that doesn't even include the guys that are fully healthy. Not fully healthy right now with Devin Witherspoon trying to get back. So it's in Jamal. Well, we'll get to Jamal news in a minute, but yeah, it's going to be tough, but he showed out and maybe ends up earning a spot on the practice squad, or another team sees this and wants to give him a shot. He's kind of undersized as a safety, but that never stopped anybody. It didn't stop Earl Thomas. So yeah, I'm not sure. A game like this where is essentially just very much a tryout for a bunch of these guys to go and a lot of them are fighting for their jobs, really. In Locke's case, it was just getting more reps. A lot of them, it was fighting for roster spot. It was funny. Jake Bobo, 2 receptions, 27 yards, and a touchdown. The first touchdown that the Seahawks scored. Nice little inside release. Was able to get through some traffic, and that sneaky speed of his was able to get him into the end zone, get a step on his defender. Drew Lock was able to find him in stride for 6. It was funny because post game Bobo was like, he's been sweating the cut date. He's had the finalized roster dates for when the NFL teams need to turn in their finalized 53-man rosters. He's had it circled on his calendar, and I'm like, I think he's played well enough to earn a spot on the 53-man. Obviously you're going to have DK and Tyler and JSN. But from there it just kind of goes. It's interesting. Derek Young is a guy who's I've heard his name a lot. D. Eskridge isn't going to be available for the first 6 weeks of the regular season. So at least in that very instance, for 6 weeks, Jake Bobo has a spot, I would think. And that's not exactly how that works. But I think he makes the 53-man roster. I don't think it's much of a debate. I don't think there's much doubt about it, personally. So, it was interesting to kind of see that. You didn't really see much of any of the starters get playtime this preseason. A few of the starters got in for a drive or so. I believe it was in the game against Dallas. That was about it. And that's probably all they need. I'm sure the first few drives of week 1 might be rusty for some of the players. Hopefully it doesn't have a big impact on the game. But yeah, no, it made a lot of sense how the Seahawks played this out and how training camp went. So we'll look here at roster moves. The cuts to go from the 90-man preseason roster down to the 53-man regular season roster have already begun. The Seahawks made 7 cuts yesterday, starting with tight end Sal Cannella, defensive end Jordan Ferguson, wide receiver Malik Flowers. You'll see it there. It's going to be tough, because there are guys who maybe fit elsewhere. Maybe they didn't even get that much of a chance here in Seattle. They only got a few reps, and they might have been in quote unquote garbage time. It's such a small sample size. Cornerback Benji Franklin, wide receiver Justin Marshall, cornerback Chris Steele, and UW running back Wayne Tulapapa. And I talk about getting a little bit of a chance. Tulapapa got, I think, his first snaps of the game were on that final drive of the game when Allers and the Seahawks were trying to drive. So yeah, it's tough to get that going, but this leaves the Seahawks at 83 players on the roster. More will need to be coming in the next few days. I'm sure that we'll get some today by the time that this episode has dropped. Starting on Wednesday, teams can begin forming their 16-player practice squads, and it'll be very interesting to see how many of the players' names that we've seen mentioned in the preseason, in training camp, ending up on that practice squad. Pete Carroll has said that the hope is to keep as many players from the current roster around as possible. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Pete Carroll said he loves this group. He loves the group they've got and wanting to keep them together and trying to see what they can do. But, at the end of the day, if some of these guys show out enough for other teams, they're going to get claimed by other teams. So, again, will be very interesting. I say more, not quite. Good news here. Jamal Adams this past week passed his physical on the 24th. He will be going through walkthroughs and such. I don't believe he's expected to make the week 1. I don't think he'll play on week 1. Jordan Brooks is supposed to play by week 1, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who on the 22nd of August underwent wrist surgery, still could have a chance to start the regular season. That surgery will determine how long he will miss. He does have a screw in that wrist. He hurt it in that preseason game against the Cowboys when he had that big catch that we talked about so much last week. But he sounded like he was in good spirits. And from what I understand, he might not be so much of a long shot to make week 1. So we'll see about that. By the end of the day, you want to keep them for the long haul. So looking ahead, the Seahawks finish the preseason with a 2-win, 1-loss record. Their next game is September 10th. That's going to be regular season week 1 here at home at Lumen Field against the Los Angeles Rams. That's a 1:25 p.m. Pacific time kickoff. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one. You got a division rival in here. There's a lot of hype and excitement around the Seahawks this season, coming off of that last year where they arguably overachieved. You've got all these exciting new rookies. Julian Love in the secondary was signed in free agency. Draymond Jones on the defensive line was signed in free agency. So it's going to be you brought back Jerron Reed. So the Seahawks have a lot of talent, whether that be younger, signed through free agency, drafted guys who are coming back and looking to build off of impressive years last year. It should be a fun season. It should be a really fun season. We will have more Seahawks related content for you as you follow us on Circling Seattle Sports across all sorts of social media. That includes here on YouTube. If you just put in Circling Seattle Sports, you should find our YouTube channel. You'll also find, of course, all the other CSS on Converge episodes. But make sure you're looking at our socials for more Seahawks content, of course. So we go from there over to our Mariners, who are currently the hottest team in all of baseball. And fun enough, I try not to hit the roof when I do this. I get to bring the broom back out. I don't want to get any broom particles on my keyboard. That would be smart. We go over here. We don't get to bring the broom out quite yet. To the first series of this past week, the Mariners were closing out their 10-game road trip in Chicago against the White Sox in the Windy City. On the first game of the series, on August 21st, the Mariners would win that one, an absolute shellacking, 14-2. Our player of the game, catcher Cal Raleigh, 3 hits, 3 runs, and 6 RBIs on the day. It's a multi-homer game for Cal, and he absolutely explodes, as his entire offense really does, and gets a satisfying series opening victory. On the 22nd, to win the series, the Mariners would win that one 6-3. A little bit less offense, but still a nice output nonetheless. Our player of the game, the designated hitter Mike Ford, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI, and 1 walk. You might look at that and think, oh, that's not that great. He did reach base 4 times, which was nice to see. Mike Ford had been having a really rough go of things as of late. Ever since he had this really strong run when he was called up, he had kind of been struggling at the plate, striking out a lot. And you're hoping that, there's a guy you brought up, a guy who does possess some nice power. Hopefully he can turn some things around. And that was a nice game for him. In the series finale, the Mariners were looking for a sweep. It was a day game, a getaway game. It was very hot in Chicago, and the wind was back. If you remember last year when the Mariners were in Chicago, the wind did play a factor in that last game of the series. It was blowing the ball over the place. There were several pop-ups in the infield that kind of got lost because of that wind. So it was a wacky game. It was a wacky game, and especially because of the way it ended, the Mariners would lose that one 4-5. Their winning streak would end at 8 games. It would not go to 9 games. But they would end the road trip with an 8-2 record over 10 games. So it's not the worst thing in the world whatsoever. Our player of the game, second baseman Josh Rojas. Rojas has really been heating up since that Baltimore Orioles series, and he continues to do so here. 3 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI, and 1 walk in this game. A really strong all-around performance from Rojas, and a loss here, unfortunately. But again, it was a close loss, and the Mariners probably just wanted to get the hell out of there and get back home. So we go from that series over to home. After that series finale on Wednesday in the getaway game, the Mariners would get a day off, and then they would start their series, a 6-game homestand, which continues later today, with a 3-game set against the Kansas City Royals, the team that they began their road trip against just a little bit ago. So playing this pesky Royals team once again, to kick off that series on the 25th on Apple TV, which I know a lot of you don't like, and I apologize. I understand. I would say just join us at the ballpark then if you're able to. It makes it much easier, and it's a better experience anyway. They would win that one against the Royals 7-5. It was a close run. Andres Munoz comes in and shuts the door, even though the bases were loaded. Our player of the game's number 1 and 2. Number 1, shortstop J.P. Crawford. J.P. He led this game off actually in the bottom of the first on the first pitch, a solo homer to right field. He did tally 3 hits, 3 runs, 1 RBI, and 1 walk on the day. Our other player of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez, 3 hits and 3 RBIs on the day. So big days from a couple of Seattle's infielders there, especially the left infielders. Continuing it, the Mariners would win the series with their August 26th victory, a huge and emphatic 15-2 win, similar to that White Sox series opener when it was 14. Was it 14-2 or 3? I want to say it was 2. It was 2. I have somewhat of a memory left. It was an absolute explosion of offense. Able to really cruise here. Logan Gilbert has a nice outing as well on the mound. The offense absolutely explodes, including our player of the game, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez. Teo, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 6 RBIs. It's a multi-homer game for Teo, including a grand slam. It was funny because I think it was just the inning before this one where he hit the grand slam. Teo had runners in scoring position, and he wasn't able to do anything with it. And he comes up the next at bat, and he is able to take care of business, which was great. And we'll go over here. What stuff going on? I don't know. A photo of the game here by Matthew Bermudez. Josh Rojas got in on the action with a home run of his own. There were 7 home runs by the Mariners in this game, which is a franchise record. It was tied for the most in a game, I believe, by Mariners hitters of all time, but most at T-Mobile Park. With 7 homers by the Mariners all time, which is incredible. 7 homers is just absolutely ridiculous. To close out the series and secure the sweep and get the broom out. Oh, I'll bring the broom out in a minute. Don't worry about it. The Mariners would win a tight one, 3-2 over the Royals on Sunday. 2 players of the game here. Number 1, starting pitcher Luis Castillo La Piedra, 7 innings pitched, only 1 hit allowed, no runs, 1 walk on the day. So only has 2 base runners, and they both came in the same inning. Otherwise, he faced the minimum 6 times through his 7 innings, also including 6 strikeouts on 95 pitches. Our second player of the game, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Julio, 2 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs, including a 2-run homer that would give the Mariners a lead that they would need because the Royals would come back after being down 3-0, as Nelson Velasquez hit a 2-run homer to bring them within run. The bullpen, Justin Topa and Andres Munoz, are able to clean things up after Gabe Spire had an uncharacteristically bad outing. And they get the sweep. And they would move into sole possession of first place in the American League West with that win. And it has all of us feeling like Julio here in our photo of the game by Live Lions. Just incredible, the sort of run that the Mariners have been on. A lot of the offense has been able to pick things up, including a guy like our player of the week, Teoscar Hernandez. Teo, 7 games, this past 7 games, he's got 9 hits, 5 runs, 7 RBIs, 1 walk, 1 stolen base, 1 double, 2 homers, a 409 batting average. You can see the on-base percentage and the slugging and the OPS. Teo has been doing a lot better as of lately. The summer months have been really good, except for July. I believe July wasn't so great, but June and August have been excellent for Teo, and he's continuing that, and the Mariners are getting the sort of power that they envisioned that they'd get from him from when they acquired him this offseason. So, oh, I did it. Where are the Royals? They're over here. Boop, boop, boop. No, it's big, and I don't want to continue to say it, but I will. I mean, the sort of production that you're seeing from the Mariners and who is doing well are guys that it's all internal. Teoscar is someone who was kind of slow in the early months. Well, not kind of. He was slow in the early months of the season. Julio, who's gotten hot. We talked about him last week, has gotten started over the summer months. JP Crawford's been solid all year long. Eugenio Suarez has had some really impactful games, whether that be some at the plate. We talked about him earlier there in the game section, or with his glove. You know, he has a gold glove, knock on wood, gold glove candidate this year. You know, Ty France has been doing better than he was in the early part of the season. You know, so in Cal Raleigh as well. So you're getting, it's all internal, the success here. It's not necessarily they went out and got the big bat, you know, and even the guys that they acquired in the Paul Sewald trade in Dominic Canzone and Josh Rojas especially as of late, have been performing. So I don't want to say I told you so, but again, it was all going to have to be internal at the end of the day. And that's what it has been for the Mariners here. So I'm going to briefly look at some roster related news here on the 21st of August, later the day when we recorded last week's episode. The team reinstated infielder J.P. Crawford from the 7-day injured list, which I believe we talked about. Recalled Darren McCacken from AAA Tacoma. Option infielder / outfielder Sam Haggerty to AAA Tacoma, and then placed Emerson Hancock on a 15-day injured list with a right shoulder strain. Hancock is going out with that shoulder strain. He dealt with the same sort of injury last year. It delayed his 2022 start down in the minors. And what Hancock has told the team doctors and the team staff is to figure this out, please, because this is an issue, as I just mentioned, that he has dealt with before, and he wants to get this figured out and understand why this is happening to him, so that he doesn't have to deal with this again in the future. So on top of that, as we talked about at the end of the episode last week, center fielder Julio Rodriguez was named the American League Player of the Week. The 22-year-old batted at a 568 clip with 7 runs, 4 doubles, 2 homers, 12 RBIs, 6 stolen bases during the week, as he got on base at a 579 clip, slugging .838 with a 1.417 OPS. He hit safely in all 7 of the games that he played in, registering 5 multi-hit games and 4 consecutive games with at least 4 hits. He becomes the first player in Mariners history with 20-plus homers in each of his first 2 major league seasons. Now also has become the fastest Mariner to 50 homers in his career, doing so, I believe, like 13 games faster than Alex Rodriguez. He's one of just 2 players in Major League Baseball history with 20-plus homers and 20-plus stolen bases in each of his first 2 seasons, joining Kansas City's Bobby Witt Jr. And this is the 3rd time in his career that Julio has been named the American League Player of the Week. Previously did so earlier this year, May 22nd to 28th, and then June 27th through July 3rd back in 2022. So, wrapping up here with our Mariners, they continue their homestand in their month of July, as I mentioned, their month of August, tonight with a series against the Athletics. The Mariners sit at a 74-win, 56-loss record. They sit at first in the American League West. They are, yeah, you heard me right. Again, first in the American League West. They don't have to worry about games back from the top of the division or the wild card, but the job is not finished, as I've talked about in our articles and online. The job is not finished. The Mariners are in the driver's seat. They just have to make sure they keep their foot on the gas, folks. They cannot slow things down or lose focus. They've got a crucial. I try to say crucial and critical at the same time. Not quite how that wanted to go, but they have a key stretch here throughout the rest of the month of August. You know, they've got these games against Oakland, and then the 3 to begin the month of September against the New York Mets in New York, and then things get kind of dicey. We'll talk about that later when we get to it, but the first 2 games here against Oakland, including tonight, the 28th and 29th, are both 6:40 p.m. Pacific time first pitch. 1:10 p.m. start on September 30th versus the Athletics. That is a getaway game. On Wednesday, the 30th, the 31st of August, yes, will be the day off for the Mariners in New York before they they battle the Mets, who had so much expectations, whether it be the It's All About the Mets meme or Meet the Mets, the song. The Mariners play the Mets 3 games here. The first 2 games on the 1st and the 2nd of September are 4:10 Pacific time starts, and then the 3rd and series finale is a 10:40 a.m. Pacific time first pitch there against the Mets in New York at Citi Field. Oh, someone's doing construction next door, so if you hear a pounding, I apologize. Yikes. All right. Anyway, we'll continue here with our Seattle Storm, who wrapped up the last of a 3-game road trip and began it wasn't even a 1-game homestand. They played 1 home game before they will go back out on a 4-game road trip to close out, well, not to close out the regular season, but essentially. So the first game of the past week, August 22nd at the Chicago Sky, a 79-102 loss. Tough one here. The Storm just really fall apart in this one. This one was kind of rough from the get-go. It was all sky all day long, rather, I should say night. Um, Drew Lloyd had a nice game. She was our player of the game, 26 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Just overall, again, a tough one. Seattle really wasn't able to hang around in this one. And it made things tough. It made things tough. Um, because you want to see them be competitive. You want to see them bounce back. They just weren't able to do so. They would get another chance at the Sky later on, but we'll get to that. They would play the Fever next to wrap up their road trip. They would lose this one 86-90, so it was a close one, much closer than that loss to Chicago, but it still wouldn't matter. It wouldn't be enough. They would fall to the Fever by 4 points. Again, Jewel Lloyd puts up a nice performance. 32 points this time, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal, including 19 points in the fourth quarter. This road trip sees Jewel Lloyd become the Storm franchise leader for single season points. She is trying to chase the regular season record in the WNBA set by Diana Taurasi. I'm not sure if she'll make it, but with the offensive performances that she's had, I wouldn't necessarily put it out of the realm of possibility. It'll just be interesting to see how much she maybe chases that, maybe pushes it. I'm not too sure. Then the one home game that'll separate all these road games. The Storm would come back to Climate Pledge Arena and host the same Sky team and lose 85-90. This one was a tough one. The Storm were actually playing pretty well for the first 3 quarters. They shot the ball well. They were at 48% shooting through those first 3 quarters. And then they fell on their face and they only scored 10 points in the final quarter. Player of the game in this one, there were a couple good examples of what I could have gone with here. Ezzy Magbagor, though, with the double-double is what we'll go with. 15 points, 14 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and 1 block for Ezzy in this game. As we'll go to our photo of the game here by Liz Walter. Does not include Ezzy, but this includes some other players who started off the game well. Sammy Whitcomb, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals in this one. 3 steals is big. Jewel did have 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, including 2 steals, but wasn't necessarily efficient shooting the ball. Interesting one here, too. The Storm got Yvonne Turner involved in this game after really rarely getting her minutes in the second half of the season. Mercedes Russell had an excellent game off the bench, 13 points, 11 of them coming in the first quarter, setting a new career high for Mercedes. She did add 3 rebounds and 1 assist and 2 blocks on the game, which... Did that lead the game? It did lead the game. Yeah, 2 blocks led the game. So I don't know. This one, it's tough. I mean, the Storm are now officially eliminated from playoff contention. We all saw this coming. I get it. I was trying to have a hot take and think that maybe they were scrappy enough to find their way into a playoff spot. And give them credit. The Storm were scrappy. A lot of their losses were tough and competitive games, and this is including a bunch of games against really good teams. They pushed the Liberty in just about every game that they played the Liberty. They haven't really pushed the Aces, which, sure, I expect that. They pushed Connecticut. A lot of their games they've been competitive in. There aren't that many that they've been blown out in. That Chicago one earlier in the episode there, early in the segment, that counts as one of them. But no, I talked about it in my game recap of this game. It's been a big growing year. The Storm are going to have to make some decisions in the offseason. It all starts with Jewel Lloyd, whether she wants to come back or doesn't want to come back. But there are definitely some pillars here when you look at this roster. I mean, Jordan Horson has played well all year long as a rookie and done some things that only a few rookies have done. Ezzy Magbagor continues to grow and grow and grow. Mercedes Russell seems to be finding her 2021 self. So, and you've got other important contributions from the rookies and Dulcie Finka-Mengiadu and Jade Melbourne. So there are some definite positives to look at with this Storm roster, but obviously some frustrating things like not being able to clean up your rebounds and your points in the paint and just your general paint presence. And then you're turning the ball over too much. So it's definitely a growing and learning experience for Noelle Quinn and the Storm team. So looking ahead, They sit at a 10-win, 25-loss record. Their next matchup is August 31st at the LA Sparks. So they head out on the road. Again, this begins a 4-game road trip for the Storm. So they had a 3-game road trip, a 1-game return home, and then a 4-game road trip once again. So, yeah, kind of bizarre. Kind of bizarre. That game at crypto.com arena has a tip-off time of 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then the next game on that road trip this week, September 2nd at the Las Vegas Aces, 6 p.m. Pacific time. The Storm will try to make this game against Las Vegas competitive. Will they do that? I'm not entirely sure. But it'll be fun to watch Jewel Lloyd try and break the WNBA single-season scoring record if she's able to do so. So that'll be something to watch for sure. We head over here to our Sounders, and yeah, man, I mean, I talked about it at the head of the show. It's not a loss, but with where you're at right now, with the run of form, with the way the table is stacked up, with how morale has been, you kind of need wins. And I got half of a win. They got a draw. They split points with the Loons in Minnesota. It was a tough one because Nico Ladero assisted a nice, beautiful header to Yemar Gomez Andrade in the first half. He had a nice header. The Sounders were up at halftime. You're thinking, oh, maybe they're going to be able to put it together. There's some concerning things here for sure that I'll talk about here in a second. But hey, maybe they're figuring it out. Maybe they're putting it together. No, they would give up a late equalizer, and it's kind of funny, kind of cruel, maybe not funny. Yamar was going to clear a cross into the box, and he headed it into his own goal, past his goalkeeper Stefan Fry, and would tie things up. So Yamar was responsible for both goals in this match, which is not, it's not great. So oh goodness, that thing is still going on. So yeah, it's not the worst outcome that could have happened. It's not the best outcome that could have happened either. The troubling statistic is that the Sounders defenders of Yemar Gomez Andrade and Alex Roldan had better attacking stats in terms of shooting than the Seattle attackers, which isn't great. Another thing that wasn't great was that head coach Brian Schmetzer basically promised that there would be changes to the lineup, but the lineup has been mostly the same people, just in different fonts and just in different forms. And he rolled out basically the same lineup once again, and he made his substitutions way too late once again. So, yeah, man, I don't think there's only one person that can be have the blame set upon. A bunch of people are putting it on the coaching. A bunch of people are putting on individual players. I just see a lack of heart from a lot of these guys, really. Lack of urgency. You know what I mean? It kind of seems like we're treading water, even though with this draw, the Sounders moved up a, a spot and they're third in the Western Conference right now. So, yeah, it's a bit wild. It's a bit frustrating, but here's to hoping that they can figure that thing out sooner rather than later. So their next few matches, they've got 2 matches over the course of the upcoming week. Next, August 30th at Austin FC with a 5:30 p.m. Pacific time kickoff. They are headed straight to Texas from Minnesota. They did some decent things in Minnesota. Let's hope that they can take the good things that they did in Minnesota, or at least the decent, and push them over to this match against Austin. Austin has not been the team that they were last week. So it'll be very interesting to see what takes place for them in this matchup against Austin. I say that Austin has been the team they were last year. You could say the same about the Sounders. So their other match this week, September 2nd, hosting the Portland Timbers here at Lumen Field with a 7:30 p.m. Pacific time kick. You could argue that everything started to go downhill with the Sounders when they lost 4-1 to Portland down at Providence Park earlier in the season. You could also just say F Portland because it's the Timbers and that's the rivalry. You just hope that the Sounders get up for this game. It's a rivalry match. It's arguably one of the bigger matches of all the season. And they need to be paying attention. So, it's going to be a really big one. That one, especially Austin. Yes, I'd say that all of these matches the close of the season are big, but the Portland one, for obvious reasons, just feels so much bigger. So we move here to our OL Reign. And the soccer department does not get any happier, unfortunately. The Reign would lose their match in California against Angel City FC by a score of 1-2. Our player of the match, forward Megan Rapinoe. Pino comes in as a lead substitute and does score a penalty goal, but it wouldn't be enough. The Reign attack would come in at the end of the match in extra time and would be bringing in dangerous possession. They just weren't able to get a real proper dangerous shot on goal to tie this thing up. And they would drop this one. They are sitting at 6th in the NWSL standings, which isn't great. I can see where they're at points-wise to see a better idea of what's going on here. But yeah, the Reign road struggles continue. We talked about it after last week with the Kansas City Current. Kansas City is playing much better than the record reflects, though. So, again, take that so much with a grain of salt. But, yeah, it's very frustrating. The commentators okay, wait, hold on. Points. Okay, they're 2 points behind Washington. Oh, they're 2 points behind 5th place Washington, 4th place New York, New Jersey. They're 3 points behind San Diego, North Carolina. Okay, so a win would put them back into the mix. Interesting. Okay. The commentators were talking about how, maybe since they didn't have their internationals for a while and they're just really fully coming back this match, that they're trying to get back and augmented into things. You could make the argument that the Reign have had training with their internationals back and that really wouldn't factor too much into it. And Laura Harvey didn't sound too concerned about it in the pregame. But hey, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily doubt it. I can't tell you that all the players look totally, conjoined in this match. They didn't look like they were forming one big, cohesive unit per se. So I don't know. It's frustrating. I mean, you'd like to maybe make substitutions sooner. It was interesting to see Laurel Ivory's birthday is today. Make sure you wish Laurel a happy birthday. You could do that on one of our social medias, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and wish her a happy birthday on our happy birthday post. But yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. Claudia Dickey got the start in net for the Reign. It was for her first ever NWSL regular season start. Her other starts have come in the Challenge Cup. And the first goal she allowed was a big mistake, which was unfortunate. Both goals that the Reign allowed were mistakes, which is not both by Dickey, but just in general, which was frustrating to see. So I don't know. Here's to hoping they can tune things up and head in the right direction, focus in the right direction from here on out. So we do have a piece of news here. On the 22nd, the team extended midfielder Olivia van der Yacht. Van der Yacht agreed to a contract extension through the 2026 NWSL season, marking the second-year midfielder, the longest contracted player on the club's roster, which is pretty interesting. Interesting. She signed a 3-year contract plus an option year. The option has been exercised since entering the league back in 2022. The 24-year-old has made 32 appearances, 21 starts in regular season play for 2,013 total minutes and ranks 10th in the NWSL in aerial duels won, adding 1 goal, 9 shots, 124 duels won, 28 tackles won, and 15 interceptions. This current season in 2023, Van der Yacht has started in 8 of 11 games played and scored 1 goal, the game-winning goal in the team's home opener against the San Diego Wave on April 15th. The Kent native has also made 2 starts and 4 appearances throughout the 2023 UKG Challenge Cup, helping the club clinch the West Division for a second consecutive season. As a former Husky and as a Seattleite, I am biased. It is excellent to see Olo back. And it's always extremely interesting to hear the different players within the Reign organization or even the coaches and the staff talk about Olo, and they just have such great things to say about Olivia van der Yacht, which, hey, I'm all for. I am all for pushing the Olivia van der Yacht agenda. That is totally fine by me. I am totally good with that. So very nice to see the extension here. It just makes you wonder when we might see certain other extensions for the Reign made by General Manager Leslie Galmore. Roosevelt. Who knows? So the Reign, with that loss, will now sit at a 7-win, 7-loss, 4-draw record. They are 5th in the league table. Wait, no, 6th. I lied. 6th in the league table. We're going to double check that because I'm 90% sure that it's 6th. Yes, 6th. Looking ahead, their next match is September 3rd versus the Orlando Pride, back here at home, back here at Lumen Field, with a 3 p.m. Pacific time kickoff. That is the Reign's fan appreciation match. They have expanded sections for all of the remaining home matches, so make sure that you're getting your tickets for these matches to see the end of the regular season play of Megan Rapinoe's career. We'd obviously like to see the Reign get a playoff berth, and we'd get to see her play more matches at home. But they got to take care of business first, and that includes going to this game and the other home games as well. So make sure you're going to those. We're going to be there, of course. So we will wrap it up here with our star of the week, and with how hot they've been and how not so hot the other teams in Seattle have been. It's hard to not go with the Seattle Mariners. You know, the team continues to be the hottest team in baseball by many metrics. They continue to set records. They're playing good baseball largely. I mean, I didn't like how many times they struck out against Royal starter Alec Marsh in Sunday's game, but Luis Castillo had an excellent game going 7 innings. Logan Gilbert went 7 innings the game before. They've got Brian Wu back from injury, who is pitching tonight against TBA from the Athletics. So it'll be interesting to see who they put out onto the mound. The bullpen has largely been able to hold things down. And even when they do have the occasional mess up, I mean, the bullpen has been so consistently good for the Mariners. It's hard to be mad when they have the occasional mess up. They are human. And you're getting production from all parts of the lineup, not just the top half. You're getting from the bottom third, from everybody, which is excellent. So, and I continue to be able to bring out my broom for this. Again, I don't want to get broom bits on my computer. Ugh. So I want to say thank you for dealing with the home office situation, the home studio, the bags under my eyes. If I messed up here, a bit tired. We're working through it. I want to appreciate everybody who tunes in for our episodes of Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Until we see you in the month of September, you can play the 21st nights, September. You can play it all you want. I'll probably play it as I'm going down to the ballpark tonight. Make sure, if you can, you're coming out to these live events, whether that be, you know, the Mariners games as they continue their hot stretch. The last Storm game of the year is I believe, the last one is the home game. The Sounders still have a few games left at home as they try to get their playoff seeding all figured out and hopefully lock up an actual playoff spot before I get ahead of myself. The Reign as well, the last few home regular season games of Megan Rapinoe's career are taking place here at Lumen Field, and other sports teams will wake up eventually. So until we see you next week in the month of September, make sure to take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make today a great day. I love you. Take care.